ladies and gentlemen. I'm very, very happy to be here and very happy to share our life-saving story with you. And I'm very grateful to African Research Institute for making this possible and for making it possible to share the story with you and with the world. I know there are so many untold stories, maybe some of them better than ours, and we are lucky to have the opportunity to have the media or this where we can tell the story. And when the title, Grain Revolution, I can't agree with them any more than that. It really was a grain revolution. And this little grain, which we call the magic grain, is really the magic grain. It has made a difference to our lives. And when we say to our lives, because I'm part of that community, sharing the joy now, and I was also sharing the suffering with them, because I'm part of them. Born and grew up in that area, an arid area, very little rainfall. And it got less and less over the years. And the way it started is that, there was a severe shortage of food that year, which affected everybody, more so my own mother, old mother. And when I went to see my mother, and I said, well, I can't go with nothing. I had to take something. I took some grain with me. It was, I remember very well, 5 bags of maize. And that was for her, and maybe a few other friends around her. And that was it. But when we got there, we discovered that there were so many families in the same village who have had no food at all for a number of days. Maybe they could have been surviving on old fruit or some really food that would not fill the stomach at all. So when I got home, quite a number of families came and said, we know you have brought something for your mother, but your mother is much better off than quite a good number of families here. And of course, I'm a leader in that area. I'm the village head in that village where I come from. And therefore they say, it's your responsibility to do something about it. But how do I do it? Right. Whatever little you brought, we have to share. Then how are we going to share? And we will have to discuss and decide how that is going to be shared. Because in our culture, one family cannot have food when others don't have. We believe in sharing. My mother would not eat anything when others don't have. So I said, Mama, what do? Let's listen to them and do whatever they suggest. So from the 5 bags, I left 1 bag for my mother, the other 4. Sit right there, the elders. You decide how that was going to be shared. So they decided. Then I said to my wife, what do we do? We didn't know that the situation was so bad. Even if you had money, there was no way to buy the food. So there was nothing. There was no aid, there were no donors. The environment itself, social environment, political environment, didn't allow donor aid. So people had nothing, they had no way to get the food from. So I said, okay, how do we do it? My wife suggested that we go and buy food from the north of the country where there was food. And we bought 5 tons of maize. 2.5 tons for my own village, 2.5 tons for my wife's village. That's how we distributed it. And we had to do it in the evening, at night. Drop 50 kg for every family and so on. That was it. Then we said, okay, is this sustainable? This is only enough for a month or 2 months. What happens after that? And really we started thinking of what can be done. But look, can be done by who? By us or by them? Whatever solutions, the solutions had to come from them, not from us. Because whatever comes from someone else is not sustainable. So the starting point was to engage the people in discussions and say, what are the solutions? But did I have the time to do that? My village is 300 kilometers from Harare. I had to find the time. I had to do it. So we started engaging the people because the 50 kg was only going to last a month or 2 months. What happens after that? What happens the years to come? Because that area, very little rain. And lucky enough, it was around June, July, and it was before the rain season. And they said, when the rain season comes, it may be equally bad. What are we going to do? And during the discussions and engaging these people, some people said, no, this was not happening in the past. So, if it was not happening in the past, what had happened? Said, yeah, we are now growing maize instead of growing the crop given to us by nature. Finger millet. And I remembered when I was growing, my father, who was the chief, had lots of finger millet. He had a huge granary where he would keep something like 100 tons, not just for himself, but for the dependent families and all the people around him. And we never experienced shortage of food. So reflecting on all that and discussing with the people who also said, that was the case. And they'd say, okay, where has that grain disappeared to? People are now growing maize, which is not suitable for that area. One, the soil is very poor, the rains are very low. To get a good crop of maize, there should be very heavy investment in terms of fertilizers and so on and so on. Unlike this crop given to us, it's a grass which grows like another grass. If you grow it without any investment at all, you still get something. But fine, if that is the way we are going to go, where do we get the seeds? Lucky, they said there is an old man at the corner in another village who has never stopped growing finger millet. Maybe you could give us the seeds. So he went to see this old man. Do you have finger millet? He said, yes. Have you been growing finger millet ever? He said, yes. Why? He said, I am a traditionalist. You can't talk to your ancestral spirits without finger millet. And I've been growing finger millet since. Could we have seed? Yes. How much? He was able to give us 5 bags. That is how we started that project. Starting with my own village, and then because of the dependence of our life and our families, we had to include 5 other villages around us. So they selected themselves the families who were going to start growing that finger millet. And we gave each one about 5 kgs of seed. The beauty about this crop, to plant a hectare of finger millet, you need just about 2 kgs. The grain is tiny, right? But if you don't plant it the correct way, it doesn't germinate. It has to be done right. So we had to rely on this old man. We had to go back into our traditional knowledge systems, find out how it was done in the past and how it can be done. And again, because really, a change in life, a change in habit does not come so easily. Then the question was, if we grow it, how do you make the food from it? The young ladies, like the ones I can see here, they cannot easily make food from finger millet. You need a special skill to do it. The process is a bit laborious. There are 3 or 4 steps before you can make the food and put it on the table. Where do we get the knowledge? Who can do it? And so on. So really, all those discussions and getting the knowledge from the older women and so on. But the first thing was to grow it. And we did that with 5 villages. We gave them the seeds and so on. And as if it was to prove our point, that season again, the very poor rainfall. And the only crop that did well was our finger millet. Maize was a total failure. So we said, right, to educate others that this is the only crop that can save us, that can make a difference. We had organized field days. Like we got 5 very good farmers that year in my village. And one of them was Mrs. Mlambo. You know, Jonathan came to Zimbabwe to do the research and he wrote the story. So we organized that field day and we invited the then Minister of Agriculture to come and see the work that we have done. He gladly accepted. He came. And as we were walking to that field, we walked through maize fields, which had totally failed. And when we go to that piece of land, it was amazing. It was as if rain just came down into that village, into that piece of land only. Everywhere else outside there was nothing. But there was a beautiful crop. That really did help us to convince people that that was the way to go. That was the only crop that can save us, that can make a difference. And so people started discussing and saying, you know, fine, how do we do it? And we also had to start educating the government agricultural officers, trained as they were. They were not trained to teach how to grow finger millet, but to grow other crops like your maize, groundnuts and so on, tobacco, cotton and so on. And we had to rely on the indigenous knowledge from the old man who was growing this. And then from that, the project spread and so on. But you'll find that our biggest hurdle was, how then do we get people to accept the new behavior? And even in terms of preparing the food, they called brown food or brown shoe polish or whatever it was. Because if it's not properly made, it doesn't taste good at all. So the older women had to start teaching the younger women the best way of making finger millet food. And I also had forgotten how to eat that, and I hadn't eaten it for years and so on. But the lucky part, when we had that field day, we got the best women, or best older women, who made the best of that finger millet food. It was shiny, like as if they've made it using cooking oil. Very tasty. They also prepared very tasty vegetables which went with it. And combined with your village chicken meat and so on. It was beautiful. That was changing the minds of people in favor of finger millet. And of course, as I said, we started with 5 villages. Then the project started to replicate itself to other villages and so on. So it spread the whole of Kutu right now. And as Jonathan said, or Edward said, We started in 2005, and then 2008 we had our first production. And now, then we were covering something like 5,000 people. Now we cover 40,000 families, and each family has about five people times that. So over 200,000 people are affected or they benefited from the project. And then why do we say finger millet is a crop given to us by nature and by God? In terms of nutrition, we made laboratory tests, very nutritious. It has everything the human body needs. In terms of your calcium, in terms of your vitamins, in terms of your fiber, and so on. Everything that you need. And above all, they say it is of medicinal value. Now the health people are saying, if you want to treat your diabetes, if you want to treat your blood pressure, and so on, eat finger millet. And then the second advantage, it is low shelf life. It's not eaten by insects. The seed is so small, very small, and it has a skin which protects it from insects. It's sour skin, and when you make your finger millet food, you must remove that skin first. And then you roast the seed after removing the skin. Then you can mill and prepare your flour, your millet meal. Right? And when we say it has longer shelf life, the man who gave us seeds had finger millet more than 7 years old. And this one is known to live up to 30 years. And recently, to the south of Masvingo in Zimbabwe, they discovered finger millet which has been in caves, which has been over 100 years old. Up to 15 years, the seed will still germinate, and beyond 15, it's only good for food and so on. It won't germinate and so on. But then, in terms of food security, if it has a shelf life of 5, 10, 15 years, that's the best. And what we have now achieved with our people have 3 to 5 years of food reserves. Even if it doesn't rain at all for up to 5 years, they still have got their food. And we also had to agree with them the best way of storage of this grain, the traditional food reserve or granary, which is built the traditional way. And we have built models of the storage spaces for these. And nearly every family now has got this. And every family can now rely on their own and grow their own food. That's the advantage. Compared to maize, pure millet, sorghum, and so on, which has very short shelf life. Maize, at most 12 months. Pure millet, also at most 12 months, and so on, compared to this one, which is 5, 10, 15 years. Ladies and gentlemen, and the project is now replicated itself in many other districts in Zimbabwe. And the argument is, if there is a crop which can return Zimbabwe to its former glory and its bread basket for Southern Africa, it is this magic crop which can do that. And it's unfortunate that the government has not been spending money in terms of research and development for the crop so that it can be used as raw material for manufacturing of food items for sale in supermarkets and so on. It will be the best, much better than your maize, your rice, your wheat, and so on. But I'm sure slowly we'll get there. Gentlemen, ladies, that's my story. If I may now ask Jonathan to screen pictures which the two of us can explain. And we say finger millet because the grain or this one, it looks like a finger. That's right. And of course we've got 5 varieties, and the varieties look a bit different. But this one is the best, it gives you the best yield and so on. And that is what we see there. That's the finger millet. Okay. That little hut on top of the rock, we call it the Chinyika rock or the Muchineripi rock. That's where the project started. In that little hut, when we started discussing, because you don't need a chair to sit on there. People will just come around and discuss, sitting on the rock. That one. That's where everything started. That is a symbolic of the project. The next picture. That one, if you look at here, that's where I was born. That's where my mother's kitchen when I was born is. That's where my umbilical cord is. And that's a very special place. And someone said to me, I should go and build a monument in a memory of my birth here. And what I did was I took my mother and said, Mother, where was I born? Let me show you. She showed me where I was born, and we could still pick broken pieces of her clay pots. It's now, just an open space. And I showed Jonathan there. And we have got our Heroes Acre, where my great-grandfather, my grandfather, and my father were buried somewhere at this corner there. And where also my mother, she's now late, was buried. So it's some sort of special place for us. In the same year, when Jonathan came, that's the maize. People who grew maize, that's what they got. That's what it looks like. So right off, there's nothing there compared to your finger millet crop. Same year, side by side. That's the difference. Thank you. He's one of the farmers. That one was one of the agricultural officers, standing behind. That's right, yeah. But that's one of the best crops that we had this last season. And compared to that maize that you have seen, which really was a write-off. In terms of traditional knowledge, on top of that rock where you saw the little hut, just about a few meters from that, you've got these ones. Very difficult to explain what it was. I think they were used as plates dug into the rock, or they were used as pots to cook food and so on. The amazing thing is how they made them, what tools. And really it shows that we've lost a lot of traditional indigenous knowledge systems to do so many things. We're self-reliant, and we're experts who could make lots of things that we needed to use then, including digging the rock. But we don't have those tools anymore. We've lost the knowledge. And even to explain what it was used for and how it was made, we can't. We couldn't get anybody who could explain. And around that rock, there are lots of things, artifacts, which had to do with our culture. And we still need a lot to uncover that knowledge. That's a heap of finger millet harvested. And lots of it. Lots of it. Thank you. It was at a field day. The ladies are happy and making various foods. Some of them finger millet foods. Enjoy. And the amazing part is, wherever we have or hold these field days, The families are able to feed 60 or 100 people, or some big ones, 200 people. One family, they're able to feed all of them. They don't rely on someone from outside to come and help them feed them. And it is a sign that people can now rely on themselves. Enjoying, and really, besides you can use it to make beer, alcoholic and non-alcoholic beer. And he enjoyed tasting and drinking. They also gave him a woman. Sorry to mention that. That's right, yeah. They want him to go back and, he became part of us, but a nice young man. He also donated prizes that we used, for the best farmers and so on. That really made it so nice and so interesting. And he became their friend. They still talk about the white young man when he is going to come back again and so on. But anyway, the lady was not so young, not younger than you. She's a bit old, so he can go back and marry that one. That's right. And those are the prizes that was donated by African Research Institute and through Jonathan and so on. It has a lot of value, but it's an ox-drawn plow. They connect it to the yoke, and the chain connects it here. And the good thing about this thing is you can adjust it, and you can adjust it, the depth that you plow with. And using it for preparing the land, you can also use it to do the weeding of the crop. And the argument, one of the difficulties of growing finger millet, the weeding is not mechanized. But with the improvements, we proved that it can be mechanized in the same way as you grow your own maize and so on. There is also another instrument they call the cultivator, which can be used. If the finger millet is planted in rows, 45 centimeters apart, and so on, and they leave the space where you can use the plow or the cultivator. Those are some of the good moments, It's one of the field days again, people sitting around and waiting for food to be served. And that is the place where Jonathan was given the woman. One of those. That's right. Those are school kids that come to join at a field day, and they were displaying their traditional dances, their skill, and so on. The beauty of it is the schools and the communities become one. Right? Children also participating at field days so that they learn that finger millet has an important role in their lives. If you look at them, they look very healthy and energetic, unlike what it was 2005. They look very thin, miserable. And the teachers now say the results are much better at school than they were. Because when children are hungry, they don't learn effectively. That's how bad it was. That's how good it is now, with plenty of food from finger millet. Okay, you can see that is the hut that you saw from a distance, and myself and the others. What we have done, those are what we call model families. They are going to build what we call model homes. A home that is everything that you would need in terms of the rural standards. An orchard with their own water, cattle, goats, so on and so on and so on. And now recently they have introduced fish ponds. Nice small little fish ponds, 10 by 6 meters. Put water into it. It's amazing. Fish in the backyard, in a dry area like our area. And it all came with an idea. And Mrs. Mlambo is one of those who started the project. This is our Mrs. Mlambo, dynamic woman. She was able to manage the political diversities and so on. And at every field day, she would insist that no politics. How she managed it, I can't even believe right now. Because, political polarization and so on. We would not have succeeded with that woman. Because when you can get together a large number of people, the politicians also want to campaign and so on, also want to use it, they also want to associate with that project. But she was able to keep them away. I would not have been able to do it. We owe our success to that great woman. Thank you. The other picture was me. And then this one, the creativity. This decorated our table. Because we would sit, Jonathan and my dad, myself, on a table like this one, an old little table. And they would decorate it using soil, finger method. The creativity of the women. In honor of the young white men. Thank you. The next one, Jonathan. Do you want it? That's it. Thank you.